on my board of directors. And come on
I'll
up.
talk a little bit and I can worry about other
Okay.
stuff later on, and because
All
you
right,
can have
go.
stuff probably after or during
Go
one.
ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted
You just got
to,
back from Afghanistan.
a few places over there, and I'll talk a little bit about that, because I think I'd like to explain who I am, what I do, but also how I got involved and why I got involved. Of course, I think you can see why I got involved. I'm not far from here. I grew up near here, right near Outdoor Odyssey. Actually, is in my backyard. Right? Like I say, I hunt that all the time up there and snowmobile. Grew up in a family that my dad was a Marine, my brother was Navy, and I guess I had to be different, and I went the Army route. So I'm obviously still in the military. Been in since 1991. Just spent last weekend and had my unit down there. It's the first time in 20-some years I'm in a command unit. So it's a new experience for me because I'm working under a one-star general right now, which is probably one of the best men I've ever worked under in my life. And been at command level for 20-some years, so where I was at least one of the higher ranking. I was enlisted for a long time. It was about 5 years ago I decided to become a chief warrant officer. So thinking about the military and what it's meant to me, of course, over the years, I didn't expect, I'll be honest with you, my senior year in high school when Operation Desert Storm was going on, I didn't expect to even be in the military. But to accomplish the goals of my life, that helped me get to where I needed to be, and I knew that. And then I ended up joining a unit that got hit by the Scud missile in Operation Desert Storm, 14th Quartermaster down here in Greensburg. If you get a chance while you're here, it's a great stop to visit. There's a statue there. They lost the most soldiers in that war, and there's a great memorial down in Fort Lee, Virginia, too. So, deciding to do that, I didn't know what it was going to give me in my life, the way I grew up and where I came from, but it allowed me to meet different people from all over the world, and experience many different things. But I think the deployment was my eye-opener, of course. Thinking of, as an Army Reservist, sometimes we don't think we're going to be deployed, and actually the day occurred 6 months after I took a new job. And then also being in a logistics unit, I'm thinking, I'm not going to see much battle time, so, but that was an eye-opener for me too, because my commander, who was an 06 at the time, who I worked under him, needed somebody to do some missions up in Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and so on, and some of those places we went into where we had to be locked and loaded and ready to go. So it was an eye-opener, but I take that as a positive. As I look at my life today, I take it as a positive. And I think, thinking about that unit at that time and how to bring people together, because it was ironic, we had a platoon of Greensburg, Pennsylvania, this rural community here, bringing another unit together from DC, inner city. So we, two walks of life and trying to make it work with a commander and a first sergeant, who don't even get to see each other much. That was an experience, a learning experience. And that's where when we thought about doing something like this, and again, with me being Christian, but I had a platoon full of soldiers that from inner city DC that were some Buddhists, Muslims, and Hindus, and it was new to me. I'm from rural Pennsylvania. It was an eye-opener, but I had to somehow relate and figure that out, and that's where I learned to, even attend some of those different things for them. I'm still that, I grew up Brethren, now I'm Lutheran, my mother's Catholic, so we're kind of all over the place, but that's okay. But I think we all, we're all for the same person, the same goals, and so on. Again, why I got involved. Of course, Tom. I got to meet Tom a couple of years ago. He's a pretty persuasive guy, number one. But I know how passionate he is about this. And when we sat down, and you'll get to meet Nina and so on, but they are two very influential people in my life, coming to Greensburg, working in Greensburg as a high school principal. And I know what his goals are for this. And even though this weekend I want to sit there and I have some things that I want to discuss about resiliency and so on, and what his goals are for it, and the spiritual side of things, But I think what we want from you also more than anything out this weekend, first to get to know you, number one, but also that feedback that he's talking about, because I know where he wants this to be and where we need to be, but your feedback's going to be so important. Like we were talking about the thinking about ways of getting soldiers away from opioids. I just see that happen a lot, and they need some help. Some of our soldiers need some help. Just got a call last night. I just lost a soldier in our company to suicide. Just got the call last night. I didn't even tell you. Early 20s, so that was a tough one for us. But that's happened probably half a dozen of my soldiers from Philadelphia, Fort Meade, and now up here. So any way we can try to get to them before that, and sometimes it does lead back to the opioids, and I think some of that holistic stuff, people might think it's crazy, but I'm trying to get people away from because one thing leads to another and so on. So I think this program, what we want to do here, and again, I'm going to talk about resiliency at some point here tonight or tomorrow morning, because I think that's very important. And resiliency is something that we discuss in schools nowadays all the time, because we all have struggles in our lives all the time. But how are we overcoming those struggles? How are we battling back? And we do a lot of resiliency training with our soldiers right now, because they're dealing with a lot of emotional issues. Whether it be family, whether it be military, whether it be work-related or so on. And when they hit that wall, how do we overcome and break through that wall? And so I got some videos and worksheets for us to think about. If you think it would be valuable for down the road for when we do some bigger events that I think could just impact some people. So that's my ultimate goal from being part of this. Plus his passion, his energy, his drive. It's hard not to follow him. A couple things. I'm going back to our mission and what our purpose is. And I look at, starting off where he has Welcome to Veterans Angels, I'm looking at this right now before I even get to resiliency. So everybody's pretty good with resiliency? Good. But along with some videos and some stuff that I have and some handouts, which I think I want to save more of that for tomorrow. But I go back to the Welcome to Veterans Angels, and I look at the Fellowship of Combat Veterans and Supporters. And then back to our mission. I really think that I really did sit there and focus on this. Like, we've looked at it many times, but I'm sitting there going through it as you're talking too, because it's like, connect, Veterans Angels seek to help combat veterans connect. I'm looking at these words, connect with spiritual healing. And however that spiritual healing is for certain people, whatever works for anybody. But I believe that spiritual healing is what kind of keeps us motivated and keeps us resilient at times, and kept you resilient through some of those times. And you said that. And mentoring. And I see some of the other stuff in there. That first paragraph, I think, really is the heart of our mission. And mentoring, because I'm looking forward to the time spending with you guys and learning about you guys and all the vets and everybody else that's here. Just because I think it's important. I think it's important that everybody has people to lean on at times, whenever. I mean, there might be something out there for what you guys do I might need, and I think that's having that platoon of people to rely on, I think is very important. I went to my first military ball this year, and I was very impressed, and I just got to meet this general, and just, I could follow him to battle anywhere. He was just, I don't meet too many people like that. But when he talked, and he gave the reasons why he does it this way, and he follows tradition as he does it. But he reminded me of something. He goes, and this comes back to some things that you were saying. Families sometimes are the real soldiers. He goes, families are the real soldiers. We just do the work, but the families are the ones battling everything back home to take care of everything. And he made us remember that. And when I sit there and think about, when we go back to our spiritual healing, and I think about faith and the faith that I had while I was deployed, and even before I was deployed, but I think it reinforced it for me. And when I came home, I think that supported my resiliency for when I came home. And I think your faith, as you talked about, supporting your own resiliency. And two things that I always talk about, and sometimes it's hard. And the one thing I've learned about some of my tours, not even just in the Middle East or throughout the world, and I see some of the kids and how they live and the families and how they live. And I think about that experience with your son. I'm like, I always tell students this, because they're sitting in a nice warm room. Some kids don't want to be there, they're complaining I'm in school. But somebody out there has it worse than they do all the time. And I know even on my worst day, somebody has it worse than me. So I got to keep it positive all the time. That's the one thing that I always kept in my mind. Somebody out there has it worse than me today. And I always show this group of students in Thailand crossing a bridge. It's an old rope bridge with backpacks. They cross this raging river every day, and they have to go back to it. And I always tell my students, you don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about that. So no matter how bad their day is, I tell them, hey, we all have bad days, but it could be worse. And everything happens for a reason. I try to keep that in mind. I've had a lot of bad things happen in my life, and when I deployed, I'm sitting there making excuses because I just took a new principal job in a new state with people I don't even know. And 6 months later, I get orders. I got to report in 2 days. I'm complaining. I'm upset. But then when I get there, I see a husband and a wife getting ready to deploy, leaving their 3-year-old behind.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there thinking, all right,
Wow.
again, my life's not that bad. It's only me. But what is success to you, I think, is something that we need to think about as people coming back from combat vets and have some feelings of despair and so on. And what is my heal? And we'll understand what is my heal later on. And lastly, what is your why? You talked about your grandmother. This might explain because everybody remember Buster Douglas?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm feeling old because it feels like that was just yesterday when that happened. And ironically, I ran into Buster Douglas probably 3-4 years after he beat Mike Tyson. But I'm sitting there when I'm starting to look through some resiliency stuff. This short little video. Tomorrow I have another one with some 2 good ones that I show. But I think I'd like to get some discussion, and that's why I think tomorrow would be important, where we get back and forth a little bit. If we want to go ahead and hit that.
You can write everything down if you want to. Be brave enough to write every one of your goals down. But I'm going to tell you something. Life's going to hit you in your mouth, and you got to do me a huge favor. Your why has to be greater than that knockdown. And I love it. Buster Douglas got knocked out. Nobody ever got knocked out by Mike Tyson and ever got back up. It was almost a 10 count. He was stumbling. They were 4, 3, 2, 1, and ding, 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 saved by the bell. He goes to his corner. The whole world is like, yep, that's it. Once he comes back out, that's it. Mike's going to just hammer him. And exactly that. Mike Tyson came out like, I got him. I got this kid up against the rope. Listen to me, many of you right now, life's got you up against the rope. You can't give up. You can't give in. Listen to me, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And if life's got you backed up, I need you to do what Buster Douglas did. Buster Douglas started fighting back. The world was shocked. Goliath has been knocked down. What happened? And they went to Buster Douglas and they asked Buster Douglas simply like, what happened? And Buster Douglas said, listen to me, it's real simple. Before my mother died, she told the whole world that I was going to beat Mike Tyson. And 2 days before the fight, my mother died. Buster Douglas had a decision to make. When his mother died, he could die with his mother, or he made a decision, I can wake up and I can live for mom. And he knocked Mike Tyson out simply because his why was greater than that punch. His why was greater than defeat. His why was greater than his trial and his tribulation. And I'm telling you, if you don't know what your why is and your why isn't strong, you're going to get knocked out every single day.
And I think when we look at Buster Douglas, his why was definitely his mother. That was his why, and that's what. And if you remember that fight, he wasn't doing too well there for a while. And I think it came back to him what his why was.